I went to a show at the Comedy Cellar the other night. A comedian who was in his 40s said that whenever he goes onto Instagram, all it is back stretches and Nutrafol. Welcome everybody to Negronis with Nord. What? Who is this? What are we doing here? What's happening? Where is James? What's going on? What? Who? How? I'm Grace Murray Vazquez. I am the EVP of Strategy here at Fohr, and I now have been for nearly 12 years, which is longer than the word influencer has existed, and that is some of what I'm going to talk about today. But before we get into that, let's get into a little question. Question from one of our readers. Respectfully, good start. What is influencer marketing strategy? Our agency just gives us tiers, categories, and sample talent. What else is there? Are we missing anything? Well, I'm so glad you have asked. So, respectfully, if your agency is only giving you categories and tiers and sample talent, you don't have an influencer marketing strategy, you have a spreadsheet. So let's root this in a little example. Something that used to drive me absolutely buck wild a couple of years back now would be when I would see in Slack a note saying, hey team, does anyone have any recs for influencers in LA who are Gen Z, lifestyle, who they've loved working with? What lifestyle? What brand? What are we trying to do? What do they care about? What are we trying to embody? What is the objective of the campaign? What are we trying to do? Lifestyle is an incredibly broad term. Think about how many lifestyles there are. Think about how many different types of people they are, what their different days look like, what they care about, what they're afraid of, what they love, what they need, what problems they have, how much money they have. All of these things influence the way that we speak, the way that we interact, the way we communicate, and the way that we make purchase decisions. We need to understand who our audience is and root everything in that. An old example that I learned at college was Ozzy Osbourne and Bill Gates are technically in the same demographic. Are they wearing the same pair of shoes? Are they buying the same food? Are they drinking the same beer? Are they even both drinking beer? They're completely different psychographic profiles, and so much of influencer marketing strategy, when it is great, is deeply understanding who we're targeting and what they care about. When we send to the audience and we put the audience first, our job is to make sure that when that audience gets this content, they actually care about it. They stop, they're into it, it resonates. Ideally, we move them to whatever action or business objective we're laddering up into. But it's our job to make sure that we're creating the conditions for the audience to get what they came for and for the brand to be a meaningful part of that. So the goal is that we're not interrupting the best parts of being online. We're finding ways for brands to become a part of them. That requires good strategy, because ideally, by the time a brief gets to a creator or gets to an influencer, it should actually be incredibly simple. They should be very equipped with what they need, what the KPIs of the campaign, how they're going to be judged, and what they need their audience to understand. They don't need an entire laundry list and novella about the brand and what they're about and all of those things. So much of that legwork should have already been done in the upfront. So by the time it gets to the creator, it's a simple brief. They have what they need to be equipped to be able to resonate with their audience, and we're off to the races. Because, in a world and media landscape this fragmented, in culture that's this noisy, in an economy that's this daunting, brands cannot afford to be doing a random scatterplot of a strategy that is targeting both Bill Gates and Ozzy Osbourne, and it's just random spots and dots all over the country. You can't do it. It's too wide. You need to be more focused, you need to be more deep, and you need to be more intentional to make sure that we're actually creating that feeling of seeing a brand everywhere that feels so impossible to achieve when it's so noisy right now. So great influencer marketing strategy is about creating that feeling that you're just seeing the brand everywhere. And I think for me, the funnest thing about influencer marketing strategy is that it's actually influence mapping. The word influencer, I said at the beginning that when I started, the word influencer didn't even exist. We were working with vloggers and bloggers. Ever since the word influencer has existed, there's always been this kind of stink around it. When I introduce myself or explain what I do, I have that immediate, you can feel it with some people, like, oh, cool. Oh, Oh. And I get it. I get it. For a lot of people, the word influencer represents vapid, idiot, attention-seeking, firefest, islands of rage. You know, there's a lot to reject. But it's so reductive. It's so reductive. It's not this monolithic blob of like vain, idiot people who all think the same things, who are just taking pictures of themselves. Anyone on the internet who has built an audience, that's as diverse as people are. And there's good and bad in everything. I choose to focus on the good. And for all of the islands of rage or echo chambers or dark sides of the internet, there's also representation on a level it's never been before. There are people connecting in ways that they've never connected before. Yes, there's also disconnection that's never happened at this level before. There's a loneliness epidemic. Influencers did not create that. They did not create that. The people on these platforms who have been able to amass the largest audiences are not the ones who created this landscape. They just made the best of it. And they are the ones who are driving connection. They are the ones who are driving conversation. I saw the other day, for any Love Island fans out there, there was a TikTok the other day from a guy who the internet was saying looked like the child of Nick and Alandria, Marcel. He described it as,
these comments, it's like a little house party. You guys are having your own block party over there in that video. Appreciate you guys keeping it lighthearted, fun.
There is fun to be had on the internet. There is a lot of fun being had on the internet. There are enough people liking one comment on a post like that that could fill Madison Square Garden. The immensity is unfathomable. There is so much to be enjoyed and celebrated and uplifted and funded. I think it's amazing. I love it. And I want to get the best people online who are the funniest or smartest or most unique or most effective communicators, who are hooking and holding audience attention in a way that brands can't and aren't. I want to get them paid. And I want brands to be a meaningful part of those stories and of those conversations, and get the kind of sentiment where audiences are like, bravo, I actually loved this. I didn't care that it was an ad at all. Guess what? We like it when people get paid that we think are funny or cool or interesting or smart. So that's that.
It's no different than a movie star or a rock star, because in that same way, no one's like, oh, don't give Adam Sandler money to do things.
Right. When I was growing up, the coolest guys were like sponsored surfers. Why is it any different? And it's not different. That's the thing. It's not. Consumers do not care. They're like, get that bag. This was amazing. This was hilarious. This was fantastic. Oh, and I also now think this is cool or interesting or worth my time because of this association and endorsement that I believe and that resonates with me. This doesn't have to be gross. This can be wonderful. Brand perception shift campaigns are my favorite types of campaigns when the brand is clear about the position that they're currently already in. Because if you can be honest and clear-eyed about what people think of your brand currently, and you don't have to look very far, just run to the comment section and see what they're saying about you, try and pull some nuggets out of like, okay, what is the current sentiment? What are the current blockers? Why aren't people responding to our brand? If you can be honest about that and then map back from there how to shift that, you can shift brand perception through influencers faster than any other medium. I guarantee you. The right person saying or wearing or recontextualizing a product, and that happening over and over and over again, creates that immediate like, oh, wow, that's cooler than I thought. That's better than I thought. Oh, I'm like destabilized momentarily and I'm intrigued. And then the next time, oh, that's being reinforced. I actually might check that out again. It's like, this is a fun consumer psychology journey to map. In some ways, it's so simple. There's so much nuance to it, but at the root of it, it's like consumer psychology and audience psychology. And the amount of insight and human truth that is completely accessible to all of us as marketers right out in the open in the comments, if you're willing to go and dig for it, and then you're able to turn it into something interesting, it's boundless. It's wonderful. Okay, we're just going to do a quick little rapid fire Q&A here from some of our questions. First one is, do you have an opinion on the cyberbullying from Love Island? My opinion is audiences need to get some manners. I actually think we're at a bit of a tipping point culturally where creators are going to start clapping back pretty aggressively and shining a light on the people who are being really rude or are being really unreasonable or are being incredibly unkind in the comment sections in ways that you never would in real life. I've already seen this with some of my faves. A Paige Wassel comes to mind. Being able to, of basically saying like, hey, and I've noticed a few little mean things that are happening in the comments, and being able to almost like corral the rest of her audience to be like, that's not on, that's not cool. You wouldn't do that offline. You wouldn't do that if you're in the same room with this person. So don't be an animal. I think we all need to wake up to ourselves. What do you think about every beauty brand working with athletes? I think it's great. And I think it's nowhere near enough. And I think they shouldn't just be working with professional athletes. They should also be working with coaches and players and up-and-coming athletes and fans. And I think that they should be doing so much more in sport specifically. I also think beauty brands all at the same time, because sport was having such a moment culturally, seem to say, we want to just not work with beauty fanatics, we also want to work with athletes. It's great that everyone wants to expand out of beauty fanatics. There's also a million other areas that we can jump into. One of the ones that I'm most excited about that I think is incredibly underleveraged by brands is comedic creators, comedians, people who are doing skits, the most entertaining people online. The vast majority of marketers don't yet know how to set a strategy and create the conditions for an ad with those people that's actually going to be good or great, and we do. So come to us. So if you're a brand and you want to do some of that sort of thing, reach out to me or to Fohr. hello@fohr.co. On that, real quick, when I was at South by Southwest this year, I went to a panel about NBC and L'Oreal brands doing Saturday Night Live TV commercials, which I loved. But a nugget out of that was that it took 2 years to go from NBC and any brand first talking together to getting a TV commercial live 2 years later, because of the conversations around whether or not the brands were going to be able to handle the fact that these are SNL writers and actors and that they're not going to have complete creative control. Does this sound familiar? 2 years? 2 years to do one piece of content, guys. Come on. Like, it's keeping me up at night. There are so many people online who are creating the funniest shit you've ever seen in your life. There are barely any brands playing in it. And they're writers, they're performers, they are capable of being told, we need our brand mentioned at least 3 times. We need to have it be a meaningful part of the skit. We want there to be a positive response from the audience. And your KPIs, views, and positive sentiment. And guess what? You are going to get an absolute work of art back, and you're going to get it in 2 weeks. 2 years? I love Bo and Yang, but 2 years? We got to speed it up. And the thing that drives me most insane about that, where do you think Saturday Night Live are sourcing their talent from? Jane Wickline, one of the funniest creators on TikTok, and now she's on SNL. Where did they find her? TikTok. Why are brands not going straight to the source and getting the content in a couple of weeks and paying some independent, creative, amazing people for something that can be, they can do that a million times and get all these different diverse perspectives that can fuel your social channels and can have consumers being like, wow, I loved this. This was great. And now you're top of mind in this really favorable brand love level. You've just expedited so many steps. Thousands of incredibly talented people who right now don't seem particularly commercially viable to brands because they don't know how to brief it. It is white space, ready for the taking. Let's go. We got to stop spending 2 years creating one television commercial. NBC just came out and said that Super Bowl ads next year, media space is yet again going to be $8 million. That takes into account none of the production, none of the talent. Do you remember one Super Bowl ad from last year? This year? I don't, honestly.
I remember Kendrick.
Of course. I remember the jeans. But we remember that because that was entertainment.
Oh, you should probably just put a little button on it with what you would be able to do with $8 million.
What would I do with $8 million? Our team would build an entire ecosystem where we could attract people who already care about your brand and are passionately wanting to work with it and saying, yes, I'll apply to do that, like we've done for Sephora and Dick's Sporting Goods and many others. You now have an ownable space with thousands of brand fans, from regular people through to macro influencers who are saying, hi, I'd love to work with you. We could set up incredible campaigns that are rooted in culture, that are going to connect with micro niche communities across whatever target markets you want, but it's not going to be the vague, broad, hi, every single person in America, with a diluted message that we're trying to appeal to all of you. Let's get specific. Let's really dig into something you care about. Let's have it come from someone that you know and respect and love. Let's make you save it. Let's make you send it to your friend. Let's make you share it. And let's do that maybe 5,000 times. 5,000 pieces of content from people at a regular, normie follower level through to like macro, massive, mega hitter level. Let's create an entire wave of conversation. Let's take your brand from something that people think is irrelevant and lame and that they haven't thought of in years, and that their perception is rooted in something that maybe they thought in high school. And let's reintroduce it again and again and again. And then let's get new people shopping with your brand, and let's sustain that for a full year with thousands of pieces of content and millions and millions and millions of impressions and outcomes and purchases. Let's get an entire year's worth of value, and let's get a bunch of independent, amazing people paid, and let's entertain audiences. So many of them. My final take is, when you're over 35, most brands think you're dead. I went to a show at the Comedy Cellar the other night. A comedian who was in his 40s said that whenever he goes onto Instagram, all it is back stretches and Nutrafol. Influencer marketing is still being completely misunderstood as a Gen Z and millennial or young millennial only tactic. People who are over 35 and 45 and 55 are also spending upwards of 6 hours a day online, and they often have more disposable income. They are ripe to be spoken to as a human by another human that they respect, because they're also typically pretty poorly represented in mainstream media. The vast majority of CMOs in this country probably are having an experience online that's pretty similar. So even though they understand logically that influencer marketing works, that this is powerful, that this is important, they need to do it, emotionally, I don't think they actually experience it. I think they are getting the Nutrafol ads, and they're getting the kind of, gut gummies, and like they're not actually being sold anything else. And often it's from talent that is 20 years younger than them, and they look at it and think it's bullshit. So I think that's actually a enormous blind spot, that the echo chambers that we all experience online aren't just something to be mindful of with the audiences that we're trying to reach, but also with the stakeholders and bosses that we're managing and trying to get budget approved from. I think there's pretty tough perception that we still need to break through, and once we break through it, the possibilities are endless. And on the influence mapping front, we also have an upcoming issue of our Fohr Almanac of Influence that this time is all focused on influence mapping, cultural cartography, diving into these crazy little vortexes of internet culture and better understanding them and figuring out what the hell to do with them. It's fun, it's wonderful. Reach out to us, we would love to talk to you. So thank you all for joining us. Ta-ta.